Okay, beep beep everyone. So this is my first attempt at doing a video after my audio malfunction crisis. And we're going to go through vintage cards that I have bought since my return to the hobby last fall of 2021. And we have a pretty good stack here. And these were all purchased from antique stores, antique malls, and a few purchases online through eBay. And you'll find that it's just a haphazard mix of stuff. So let's get into it, and we'll start with like the first top part here. And I bought these recently, 77 tops. This is a Carlton Fisk, and it looks pretty good for just $1. And there's Gaylord Perry, also from this year. And the backs of these look like this, if you're curious about that. And there's Tommy John, back when he was with the Dodgers. And Dennis Eckersley. And some of these have fuzzy corners, but they're not too bad. And here's the home run leaders, Greg Nettles and Mike Schmidt. And yes, that was 50 cents for that. These were in let's see, there was $1 bin, a 50-cent bin, a 25-cent, and a 10-cent. And those are your home run leaders there. I don't know if you can read that. And here's Don Sutton, Hall of Famer, and Steve Carlton. And the unfortunate thing with the Carlton card, and probably why this was so cheap, and I think one of the other ones was, is that it has a pretty significant wax stain on it there. I think you can see that. And I understand in some videos I have seen that you can get that off with pantyhose. And I have to say I have never tried it, so I'll probably look up a video on there and find out how that's done and to see if it's actually worth the effort for a card that old, because I don't want to give it any more damage than it already has. This is my first 1972 card of Richie Allen. As you can see, this one is kind of way off center. I think Richie should be in the hall, and that's the back of the 72 cards. And here's an 81 Lou Whitaker for 25 cents. I just had to pick this up. I believe I may have his card, but this was in really nice shape. It's a bit off center, but the corners look pretty sharp on it. And here's a 1959 Bill Mazeroski, which looks really, really nice. I got that at an antique store. It's a bit off center, but the corners look pretty sharp on it. And here's a Yogi Berra that I got from a closer store to where I live. And yeah, that was $40. And it has a little bit of a ding on the lower right corner, some edging issues along the left. It looks really good for centering. And the 61 cards look like this. And here's Robin Roberts. I've always wanted to get a card of him while he was with the Phillies. Let's see, that's a little out of focus. There we go. And this one also looks pretty nicely centered. It's a little bit off to the right and to the bottom. And I got that one off of eBay for, I think, a fair price. And there's the back of that. And here's Jim Cott's second year card, also from the 61 top set. Again, the centering isn't too good, but it looks pretty sharp. The corners on it are not too bad. And here's a 71 Tim McCarver. That one still has the price tag on it. I got that in an antique mall. The corners look pretty good for this set. It's hard to get these in great shape because of the black border. You can see any kind of damage real easily on them, and there's like a little bit of a a mark here along the edging where it must have been scratched or something. The 71 cards look like this. And here's a 75 Burt Blyleven. That still has the price tag on it. And this one looked pretty good. A little worn up corner there. Yeah, all four corners show some wear. But for $2, I thought that was a pretty good deal. And the 75 tops look like that on the back. And I think this is a 65. This is manager Al Lopez. Or it's a 63. I'm not sure which. Yeah, I'll have to look that one up. I looked it up at one time, but I've since forgotten. Al Lopez, I believe, is in the Hall of Fame. There's a 75 Raleigh Fingers. Yeah, it's got a couple corner dings, but overall looks pretty good. And here's a 1966 John Hiller rookie. And if you don't know who John Hiller was, he used to have the single season record for saves at 38, which he did, I'm thinking, in 76 or 77. And he held that record until I think Dan Quisenberry or Bruce Sutter broke it in the early 80s. So a very early closer. And if you look up his numbers, they look pretty good. He didn't have a lot of saves. That one year was like a remarkable year for him. And there's Tony Oliva from the 1976 top set. And the 76 tops looks like this on the back. And here's Bob Shaw. This is 66 tops. The back looks like this. And Bob Shaw, I had to get this because Bob Shaw wrote a really good pitching book that I bought when I was a teenager, and it helped me learn how to be a better pitcher. I played for the Police Athletic League for 1 year, and then some other league that was run out of a local VFW for another year. They didn't have a team for my age for the following year, and they told me that I could try out for the age above me, and I didn't have the confidence to do that, so that's kind of where my baseball career ended. I did try out for junior varsity in high school, didn't do very well, wasn't prepared for it. They had me throwing or pitching on the gym floor, which is not a good place to be pitching, and I was kind of wild, so I didn't make it. And then I tried out at first base and just didn't quite do it, and that was the end of my baseball career. But I still think Bob Shaw's book was a great book for the time. I don't know if it's still in print. It had been in print for many years. I don't remember when it was published, I think in the early 70s. And it had all kinds of things about strength training, the kinds of exercises you should do, the kind of nutrition you should have to be a pitcher. And here's a 1966 Tug McGraw from early in his career. That one is really badly centered, but I had to get it because, hey, it's Tug. Tug McGraw was the first player I had ever interacted in my life. My dad and I were wandering around Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, 1982 maybe 83, I don't remember the year. And we were trying to buy tickets, and we ended up somewhere where we shouldn't have been, and it looked like it was a public relations office. And we attempted to go in there to buy tickets, and we're informed that that's not where you get tickets. Pardon me. And I saw Gary Maddox and Mike Schmidt deeper in that room. It had a glass wall, and they were way off in the distance. They were both wearing suits. And when we left that office, Tug McGraw was walking to that office, and boy, he was a tall man, but I was just a little kid. And he was wearing a cowboy hat. And I said, "Hey, Tug," and he said, "Howdy." And that was my first interaction with a baseball player. And strangely enough, we were there picking up tickets, and my hometown was Philadelphia, and I'm wearing a Toronto Blue Jays cap, so I can only imagine what Tug must have been thinking. Strange kid. And now I'm a strange adult. And here's 77 Reggie Jackson, and yes, that was a 50-cent purchase. I mean, the card isn't has dings on the corners, but for 50 cents, wow. I thought that was a great pickup. That was from an antique mall. And here's an early Bill Madlock card from back when he was with the Cubs. And Bill Madlock, I believe, had 3 batting titles in his career. Not sure if he made 2,000 hits, but if he were ever put up for Hall of Fame, I would vote for him. Card's badly centered, but still, I need for a buck. I needed to get that. And this is, I think, the oldest card I picked up. It's a 1957 Dell Ennis, and Dell Ennis was with the Phillies back then. I remember my grandmother and my dad mentioning him, and this is when he was with the Cardinals. But Dell Ennis opened up a bowling alley just outside of Philadelphia in Huntington Valley, and we drove past that a lot during my youth. Never played there. I never had an interest in bowling until I went to college. That was the first time I ever bowled, and I don't know if that's still there. I suspect the building has been torn down and replaced with a strip mall of some sort, the usual kind of stuff. But that was there for a long time, and I guess that's what Dell did in his retirement. He operated a bowling alley, and this is what the 57 cards look like on the back. You can see it's really badly centered on the back, and there's a ding in the lower left corner. But I thought for $3 that wasn't a bad deal. Now this is a more modern card. For me, vintage ends with, I guess, 1980 maybe. I mean, it seems to be different for each person. Some people just say that up through 79, but there are others saying that vintage should end with like the end of the junk wax era, or maybe just before the junk wax era. So since there doesn't seem to be any consensus on that, I included this anyway because it's an autograph. I don't know if it's legitimate. I mean, for $1, an 86 Donruss Buddy Bell signed. I was like, well, for $1, why not? I don't think I'm going to send it into PSA to get it authenticated, but I figure, why not? And I said the same thing about this one. This is an 81 Al Oliver signed. I figure for $1.50, why not? I was a big fan of Al Oliver's. I think Al Oliver should be in the Hall of Fame. Al, I think won a collusion. There were a number of players that took Major League Baseball owners to court about colluding to keep them from playing, and Al Oliver was one of them, and he was awarded some money for that. I think it was in 6 figures, because he still wanted to play, and he thought that he could play another 5 years either as a DH or platooning as DH in outfield or some sort. And, he wasn't that far from 3,000 hits, and he'd be in the Hall of Fame right now if it wasn't for that collusion. So for those folks in the Hall of Fame that aren't putting him in because his career numbers didn't quite make it, shame on you. There were ulterior motives that kept him from being having the career that he should have finished with. And this is let's see, an 84 Fleer, another autograph for $1.50. I was like, just had to get that. And here's a John Hiller autograph on a 79 Topps card. And I mentioned John Hiller earlier in the video, and the 79 Topps cards look like this, and it doesn't mention anything about saves in the statistics, but I think that was sometime during the 70s. Well, it obviously was, but I just don't remember the year precisely. I'm thinking it's 76. But he did have a pretty great year in 73, as you can see, 10-5 with a 1.44. Anytime a relief pitcher has a year like that, it's worth noting. And here's another Al Oliver signature. As you can see, the card was issued with a facsimile and Al signed below it. And this is from 82 Topps Traded, which has a red back instead of a green back. And as you can see, up through 81, he still amassed a 303 batting average, had over 1,000 RBIs at that point and over 400 doubles and well over 2,000 hits. And he played for several more years, and I don't have his numbers in front of me. This is a 75 Tom Seaver. I think I got this for about $10. I thought it was a pretty good deal. I think the printing on it doesn't seem to be as vibrant as it should be, especially on the yellow part of the card. I think that should be a more vibrant yellow. So probably quality control at the Topps factory. Maybe the ink was a bit diluted at that point. And the 75 cards look like that. And sorry about the tape on the back. At this antique mall, they tape string with a price tag on it, and they pull it off at the register, and the tape remains on the top loader. And I haven't put that in a new top loader yet. So we have 1967 ERA leaders. That's Joe Horland, Gary Peters, and Sonny Siebert. None of these players are relevant these days. They had okay careers. They just happened to be on top of the league that year, and I got this card mostly because I love the condition of it. You don't find very many 68 cards in that condition. And here are your American League ERA leaders from 1967. And you'll see Horland, Peters, and Siebert, followed by Tommy John. And they give quite a long list all the way down to Bob Barber at 408 there, and then relief pitchers, which you don't see league leaders for relief pitchers and earned run average mentioned very often, but here they are back in 1968 mentioning this on the back of the card, and you needed at least 75 innings, which today might be a little too much because there are a lot of relievers today that only pitch to one batter or two batters or just do an inning at a time. And if you're only pitching one inning of relief every time you come out, to meet the requirements on here, you've got to pitch 75 games. So I don't know how we would judge an earned run average leader as a reliever today. It would have to be a lower number of innings than this. But you can see Hoyt Wilhelm had the lowest earned run average of relievers back then with a 1.31, which is a wonderful season for a reliever having an earned run average that low. And he was followed by Mo Jabrowski and McMahon and Gladding, who I'm not familiar with. So that's a nice card. Here's the 67 strikeout leaders, Jimlonborg, Sam McDowell, and Dean Chance. None of these are Hall of Famers. The card's off center, but it looked like a really nicely shaped card. The corners look sharp. I thought for $3 that was a good deal. And here are your AL strikeout leaders. Look at the long list they have on here. Rarely see them show this many players in a list of leaders. And Lonborg led the league with 246. And there's McDowell and Chance. Louis Tiant. Peters, I don't remember his first name. Jim Cott at 211. And there's Catfish Hunter just under 200. And Mickey Lolich further down. And it goes all the way down to Hoyt Wilhelm and Joe Coleman, I believe, with 77. And Series 4 checklist from 1968. Looking really sharp. It's obviously off-centered, but not a mark on it. And these cards, these checklists from back then, were it's very hard to find them without markings on them, because you would get them, and this was prior to the internet, prior to Excel spreadsheets and what have you. You could probably keep a record in like a notebook if you wanted to, but most kids I know, at least when I was growing up in the early 80s, they would just check off the cards as they got them using these checklists, and that's what they were designed for. It's just they're worth a lot more as a premium if they're unmarked. And this one is from 1968, and I thought $3 was a pretty good deal for that. And next is Chico Cardenas from the Reds, and I don't remember much about him. He retired before I started following baseball, but I remember hearing his name, and this card looked pretty sharp from then, and I'm willing to pick up common cards from 1970 going backwards, because they, especially if they're in great shape, because there aren't very many of them out there in that kind of condition. And I especially am interested when I'm out in the wild, if I see common cards from 70 sets up through, say, 74, I think, because the later series, there were less printed of them and they're worth more. I believe in 75 they started printing the whole set all at once, and series didn't come back again until the 90s. And there were 2 series. You could say there are 3 series today. There's series 1, 2, and an update. Back when I was growing up, the traded sets were not available in packs. They were something you had to buy from a dealer. And that's what the 68 cards look like on the back. And here's a 61 Duke Snider, who I thought was in great shape. I believe I bought this for $26, so it's kind of like in the middle range of what they go for. But the corners look pretty sharp. The centering's not too bad for how old this card is, and there's a bit of tape residue on here that's blocking the view of the card in the corner. That is not on the card, that's on the top loader. I should have moved these into new top loaders when I brought them home, but I haven't done that yet. And this was my first purchase when I returned to the hobby in the fall, and we were at this antique mall, and I was looking at it, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to get it or not. So I let it slide. We came back a month later, and it was still there. And this, I believe, was $8. And I was like, well, I'm going to get it, because I was a Phillies fan growing up. And this was the major player of the Phillies during that era from the 70s and 80s. And I was like, yeah, let's pick up Schmitty and get him. And I like the condition. It's clearly off center, to the right side. It's narrower than it should be, and the corners look pretty sharp. There's a little bit of a ding up here and a little bit there, and down there and down there. But for $8, I thought that was a good deal. And it still has the tape on the top loader, so I will have to move this to a new top loader at some point. One of these days I'll get around to organizing this. And this is a 1974 Lube Rock. I don't remember what I paid for this. I'm thinking it was $2 or $3. And it looks pretty sharp. And the 74 set looks like this on the back. Again, I apologize for the tape on the top loader. That's where they attach the price tag on them. And this is a 66 Gill Hodges. And it looked pretty sharp, so I thought $3 isn't too bad of a deal for him. And this is after his playing career. He was a manager for the Senators. And that's what the back of that looks like. And Ron Hanson from 1966. This would probably be considered a common card, but the one thing that, if anyone can remember, Ron Hanson was notable for being hit by pitch an awful lot. And I don't know if he holds the career record for that, but I think he holds the single season record for most hit by pitches, at least at that time. I don't know if it's since been broken. They don't give you hit by pitch statistics on the back of these. But I had to pick that up because that name rung a bell with me. And here's a 68 Mike Marshall, and this is not the same Mike Marshall that played in the 80s for the Dodgers, although this Mike Marshall did pitch for the Dodgers in the 70s. This guy is best known for pitching in 106 games, which is the current single season record, and I believe he had over 200 innings pitched that year. And you just don't hear of relief pitchers doing that. I mean, even in the 80s, that was uncommon. But Mike Marshall was a trailblazer, and I believe he had 3 seasons in relief of pitching in 90 or more games. And I don't know if he's Hall of Fame worthy. Probably not. Most people have forgotten him, and I believe this is his rookie card. As you could see, he only has 1 season in the big leagues at this point, and they're showing his minor league stats. So look him up. Double check my facts. Maybe I'm not exactly correct on that. And here's a 1963 Dallas Green. And Dallas Green was the manager of the 1980 Phillies world champions. And that was the main reason when I saw this card and I saw how good shape it was. I thought, yeah, we got to get this. I don't remember how much I paid for it. I think it was like $3, $4, something like that. And this is what the 63s look like on the back. He was a pitcher in his playing career. I always imagined him when he was managing the Phillies. He had gray-white hair at that point, and it was all curly, and he just looked like somebody that would storm out of the bathroom wondering who was the player that clogged up the toilet with French fries. And while we're on toilets, we have to have a visit from our purple plastic toilet. And let's run him through again. Ooh. So far, it seems like the microphone is still working. And while we're at it, it's time for the word of the day. And the word of the day is anachronistic. And I have to use that in a sentence. Dwight Schrute's beet juice is making me more anachronistic every minute. And that is our word of the day. I picked this one up off of eBay. This is a Bill Buckner rookie card from 1970. This was for $5. I thought that was a wonderful deal. It's got pretty sharp corners. It's off center, up at the top. Let me compare it to this one. It's possible it might have been trimmed a little bit, I think, but no, it looks right. But yeah, I think it's okay. But I was like, $5. I gotta get this. And there's the back of that card. William Joseph Buckner. And 1973 Rod Carew, as I've mentioned in other earlier videos, he was one of my favorite players growing up. I thought this was a dandy of a card. It has a little bit of fraying across the top border, but otherwise the corners look really sharp on this. The surface looks great. I think I may have paid a little bit more for it than what would a normal one go for, but for the condition I thought it was worth it. So that was a great purchase. This is Bobby Thompson. Not sure what year this card came out in. And it's got a ding corner down here. Yeah, this one I should probably look up again. I just don't remember. I'm thinking it's from the late 50s. I'm want to say 58, and shame on me for being unprepared, but most of my videos are unprepared. And the last one, a 75 Fergie Jenkins. I got to stop saying Fergie. It's Fergie Jenkins. And I should know that because that's what I've called him my whole life. And I don't know why I'm all of a sudden making my G a soft G instead of a hard G at this point in my life. And there's like a little piece of grass on the back, it looks like. And I thought this was pretty good. I got this off of eBay. There's like one little printing orb down here. I don't know if you can see that. These cards tended to have a lot of these printing orbs on them. I've seen some much worse than this. It has some tape up here that's not on the card. And here's the back of it. And for some reason, there's a big gap in the stat line there. And I'm not sure why. So that's my vintage purchases since I've returned to the hobby. I will probably do some more videos showcasing things that I've bought at places. I'm not planning on doing tours of places because I got to learn a little bit more on how to use this phone camera, and before I ever want to make an attempt at doing that. And besides, a lot of the places I've gone to have already been videoed by other YouTubers out there. So, well, we might try it somewhere down the road. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. If you like the video, go ahead and click on the like button. If you subscribe, I'd be very pleased to have you as a subscriber, and hopefully my content will be of use to you down the road and in the future, and hopefully we won't have very many technical difficulties. So from Nathan the Gnome, the 2 Australian robots, my 2 Cal Ripkins, and a little orange monster, I bid you a nice day. Beep beep, everybody.